Sure.
Because that's
Sure.
what I was kind of, that's really
And
a
that's,
possibility.
and that's
David
brilliant
pointed
thinking.
out.
That's good theology right there. How are they thinking? God's not in time. The Psalms say time, you know, exactly what he said. One day is 1,000 years, 1,000 years is one day. God, you know, it's not a time thing.
Right.
But I want you to begin to know that. The Old Testament was not closed. It was closed later, much later, as the Christian church started using the Jewish scriptures, then the Jewish faith closed their scriptures. Because we started saying, this is scripture, this is scripture. They closed their books with 39 Old Testament books. The church had been using 46 books. And that's why we have 46 books in our Old Testament. Martin Luther went back to the Jewish faith's understanding of what the Bible is. And that's why the Protestant church only has 39. Because they went back with Martin Luther. So I'm going to follow the Jewish understanding of what the Bible is, the Old Testament. To me, that's a big, big mistake, and I'll tell you why. You can't tell me what the scriptures are for a Christian unless you are a Christian. I can't go on a Jewish man's understanding of what scripture is, because he doesn't believe in Jesus Christ. Is it the right scripture for him in his Jewish faith? Absolutely. I'd never ask him to change it. But I would never take the Jewish church's understanding of what is sacred scripture as opposed to the Catholic Church, who said this is scripture. Okay? The second people who wrote it, the Eloists. They came out of the northern kingdom about 850 BC, was written. Now check this out. Watch this. So they're going to call the Father Elohim. And this is one of the big signs to these beautiful men and women who study the Word. They started noticing, well, how come these guys called him the Father Yahweh? And how come these guys call him Elohim or Adonai? There has to be a reason. Different writer. And so watch this. Written in the northern kingdom. And what does that mean, the northern kingdom? Well, what happened was this. In 920, the kingdom of Israel divided into two separate kingdoms with different kings. That's a really important thing. Historical thing that happened. Because you know what? The northern kingdom is going to write a different history than the southern kingdom. They just are. They're going to have different places of worship. They're going to have a different understanding of certain things about God and how to worship. So, Judah, where Jerusalem is called the south. The north is called Israel. Okay? It all comes together later and to be called Israel. But when it was divided, the south was called Judah, where Jerusalem is, and the north was called Israel. Now here's what's really important for the writing and the history. The northern kingdom was conquered in 722 BC. 722 BC, the Assyrians resettled the northern kingdom. And that's why there's a fight between Judah in the south and the north. It became known as Samaria. The Samaritans. That's what happened. That's why they're so distrustful. Well, first of all, you broke away from us. This is Judah talking. First of all, you broke away from us. You had your own kingdom with your own kings and your own place of worship. And then when you got conquered, the Assyrians brought in a bunch of pagans. And you mixed your religion with the pagan religion. So you don't have the pure Jewish faith anymore. That's their argument about Samaria. So when you read about the Good Samaritan, when you read about all those things against the Samaritans, that's why. Because there were two kingdoms. The northern kingdom was resettled by a pagan, and they mixed together. Okay? They thought this would never happen, but it did. In 587 BC, Jerusalem and Judah fell. They were conquered. They believed that could never happen. Jeremiah prophesied it would. And it did. So here's what's important. What happened was, Judah's conquered, they're taken, many of the priests, many of the leading people, taken as slaves into Babylon. What happens when your whole world is shattered and you're taken into captivity? What do you think would happen? You can lose your faith, and a lot of them did. And what else could happen?
Or you can get faith.
You could turn it the other way. You could turn to your faith to ask God, why did this happen? And God reveals you because you were disobedient, because you didn't follow my covenant, because you continued to enslave orphan kids. These orphans, you made them your slaves. These widows, you stole their land. So in Babylon, when you're under captivity, guess what happened? They started writing the scriptures. These are called the priestly ones. These are the last ones to write the Old Testament. They returned from Babylon in 538, rebuilt the temple, and started putting together the northern kingdom, the Yahwist, the Deuteronomist, around 600, was written in Jerusalem, as it says, under a time of great reform. So all these strands are in the Bible, in the Old Testament. Let's look at a couple really, really quick and just really so interesting. Go to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Not every Bible will say this, but the good ones will. It says, mine says, the first creation story. Brother Mill, can you give some water, bro? Throw me one. I don't want to go out of the deal. So I gotta. They pin me down. I go between that wall and that wall there. I can't go in there. I thought it was yours. Mill, I got one. I was wondering. I thought you took it from me. Just trying to be kind. Okay, so here's something fun. It says the first creation story. So that was the first creation story written, right? Right? That was the first one written, right?
Right.
Wrong.
No, I knew that. Just because I knew you were going to trick us.
Wrong. It was the last one written. But here's what's important. When you're the last one to write, who gets to be first? You do. The priestly guys who wrote centuries after the Yahwist put their creation story first. This is what we're going to read right here. Go ahead and chapter 1 verse 1 says, in the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless wasteland, and darkness covered the abyss. A mighty wind swept over the waters. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. That's the word of the Lord. So you keep going on, and each day God creates, and then He finally creates. Let's go to verse 27. God created man in His image. In the divine image He created him. Male and female He created them. So the priestly understanding of creation is He created us together. Man and woman. Okay? Just together. They don't separate us in this way. I'm speaking in this way because we're gonna read that the Yahwist had a different understanding of how men and women were created. You've heard of Adam's rib? Mm-hmm. That's the Yahwist. It's a totally different understanding of how men and women were created. So the Yahwist who wrote later are actually put in the second creation story. Let's go to chapter 2, verse 5. In this Bible, as I said,